It was simple, we thought. Take a few chromosomes, slice them up, put them over there, and hey, perfect human being. I'm still not sure what went wrong, maybe a miscalculation, a missed procedure, or maybe something beyond our control, who knows? A few of my psychologist colleagues and I were intrigued by human emotion, anger, despair, euphoria. Was it possible to lock the mind into just one emotion, to lock it into a euphoric state so that there's no sadness or anger and it wouldn't cloud the thought? Theoretically, yes. I won't describe the procedures of our experiments to you, both because I wouldn't want you to repeat them, but also I fear I will go mad if I have to recount them. The terrible things we did, we were ambitious, youthful, and nothing could stop us, and no one could tell us we were wrong. All I will tell is that we got a hold of a few stem cells, nurtured them into fetuses, and tampered ever so slightly with the genetics. The experiment was called the Angel Man Project, and the goal was to create a being which felt only happiness. But something went wrong, and I mean terribly wrong. Half the subjects died unexpectedly, without warning or without cause. The remaining half were mostly born hideously distorted. 3 were born well. Perfect, we thought, a human with mental capacity beyond any other due to its locked, euphoric state. They were perfectly normal up to 18 months. That's when the first symptoms appeared. Lack of balance, lack of trouble, and eating, low responsiveness. We all panicked on the inside, of course. But on the outside we remained calm and continued the project. We should have ended there. We should have taken those damn subjects and euthanized them and burned them and closed that lab, but we continued. Things only got worse from there. The subjects' movements became increasingly sporadic, and they still could not utter words, although they could laugh and did so often, much too often. Not happy laughter, but quiet, almost nervous laughter. Nearly constant, honestly. No matter how much pain was inflicted on the subject, it merely stared at you and laughed, as if it was mocking you, calling your attempts to harm it utterly futile. We expected the subjects to have extra learning capabilities. Quite the opposite occurred. Their mental development was severely delayed. They couldn't pay attention to something for more than a few minutes before lapsing into a laughing fit. But we continued, hoping that these symptoms would clear up as the children got older. We gave a name to the symptoms, Happy Puppet Syndrome, because the mindless movements of the children made it seem like they were puppets on strings. Now, 5 years into the project, we realized that there was no hope. We could no longer stand the incessant laughing of these children, as if they knew something we did not, as if some kind of joke passed between them. To look at a child and to see it twitch sporadically and laugh excessively is, in all honesty, a haunting thing. 2 of my colleagues had already quit because they couldn't stand it. I never heard from them afterwards, and looking at it now, they were most likely dead. The children had not talked for 5 years, only laughing their damn laugh. We went in to give them breakfast, and they stared at us with their huge eyes, twitching, giggling, and saying nothing. We lay the meal in front of them and just leave. The meal was laced with toxins that would silently and painlessly kill those subjects. It was a painful thing to do, but it had to be done. However, it wouldn't be that easy. As a friend of mine set that tray of food down in front of one of the boys, the laughing stopped. The boy looked up in my eyes, and suddenly the eyes had went dark. Dead serious, the laughing completely gone. They continued to stare at him and twitch for a while. My friend was in shock and would not move. My colleagues and I stood with pen and notepad ready to take notes. Suddenly, my friend fell to his knees, grasping his head and yelling furiously. He appeared to be in this tremendous pain. My colleague and I were so surprised by this we could do nothing but sit and watch. My friend collapsed to the floor yelling curses. He jerked violently a few times and then had went limp. I held back the urge to be sick more successfully than a few of my colleagues. Something about this wasn't normal at all. A dark presence seemed to tower over us. We immediately sealed that entrance. The boy stopped, looked at the door, and laughed. He fell to the floor, twitching and rolling about, laughing insanely. The 2 others did the same. After a few minutes, the fit ceased, and they stood up, still twitching and still giggling. The lights went out, and I heard crashes, glass shattering, and screams. The most terrifying thing of all were the haunting whispers, coupled with the quiet laughing. When the lights went back on, the subjects were gone. Two of my colleagues lay unconscious beside me, their bodies twisted at these odd, obscure angles. Blood trickling from their drooping mouths. At first, they appeared to be dead. They showed no vital signs, but as I leaned in, I could hear them laughing, ever so slightly. I went over to him, examined my friend. No pulse, no breathing, but he continued to laugh quietly. Although the subjects had gone, I still felt as if something were watching me, something that was just at the edge of my vision, but that I'd never be able to actually see. Me and one remaining colleague closed everything down immediately. Before leaving, we destroyed our research and locked and barricaded the lab. I lost communication with my colleagues. I presume that they are dead after what had just happened. I still feel like I'm being watched. I still hear the laughing, the whispering in my dreams, and sometimes when I'm awake, when I do, I run. I get up and I leave wherever I am. I'm not able to stay in the same place for more than a few days because of this. It spread. Other children were seen with the similar symptoms. I have no idea how it spread. It shouldn't be something that spreads. Somebody somewhere made something up about disjunction of the 15th chromosome, and that kept the people happy and in the dark for now. The disease was coined Angel Man Syndrome. So far, the spawn aren't dangerous, but I know the original still lurks somewhere. I know that they're coming for me. I know they'll find me, and I accept it. It is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, I get it for attempting to tamper with nature. I leave this letter here as a warning. They're coming for you too. They're coming for all of us. If you ever hear whispering, laughing at the edge of your hearing, run. If you ever feel as if something stands right at the edge of your sight, but you can't look at it, run. Also, I warn you. Number 1. Do not tamper with what is not yours. 2. Even angels can be demons in disguise. And 3. Don't come for me. I'm already as good as dead. The following manuscript was found in an abandoned and hidden laboratory discovered deep in an Alaskan forest. The laboratory consisted of an observation room and a containment room. The containment room was barricaded and locked, and the entire lab seemed to have caught fire at one point. Traces of blood were found after the containment room was breached, and a window was shattered. The exact nature of this lab is yet undiscovered. Whew, I always love these scientific creepypastas a whole lot. Things like the Russian sleep experiment and whatnot. I really enjoy them because they really have this aura of reality. They really like to delve into the science a whole lot and try to make everything seem so real and spooky. And for the most part, a lot of them can really pull it off. Now, of course, we read some stinkers, but this one wasn't really a stinker. I genuinely did feel some spooks throughout it. It was a little too short for my taste. I actually wish it was longer. I actually wish it was like as long as the Russian sleep experiment, because it really had a lot of stuff going for it. Now, of course, with all of these creepypastas, I love to do the research for it later on and see if it's actually grounded in some form of reality. And over here it is. Angel Man Syndrome, AS, is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's characterized with intellectual and developmental disability, severe actually, sleep disturbance, seizures, jerky movements, frequent laughter, and a happy demeanor. It's got something to deal with invalid activation of genes or deletion of genes in the chromosome 15. It's from the maternal side, where if the parental side is of normal sequence, and if the situation is vice versa, then you get Prader-Willi syndrome. And, of course, that's with a loss on the paternal side of genes within the 15th chromosome. Now, I don't want anybody to, look at this illness as sort of a giant, spooky, they're going to come out and kill you witch hunt kind of thing, like this creepypasta sort of led to the end. People actually have this in real life and, definitely treat them with respect and help them out whenever, they may have an issue. It's definitely not easy living with something like this considering the symptoms. Of course, I just have to point that out, and I know everyone's going to be nice about it over here. Now, the term happy puppet syndrome, don't use that either. Apparently, it is a pejorative term, but that being said, research aside, it is based in some form of reality. Now, I myself have never met anybody with Angel Man Syndrome. And while I would like to, I don't know how common it is for people to have. Unfortunately, there is no treatment for it. There is no cure that I can actually see right now, which definitely does suck, and I do hope something shows up in the future. But this creepypasta. Let's go into what this is, the story for it, essentially. So it is grounded in reality. It does actually use a real illness, and for the most part, it definitely sticks to those symptoms that exist in reality as well as creepypasta. Usually with a creepypasta, they might reach for some really outlandish symptoms like this, but here it stays well within its grasp. You know, you have, you know, the happy demeanor, obviously, then you have the weird jerkiness and all that, but one thing that, you know, while this did definitely scare me and spook me, I feel like it didn't really add a whole lot, and I guess that was due to the fact that it was definitely short. You know, you have people with Angel Man syndrome, you have people that are sort of uncovering this syndrome, and it puts them in the position where they actually sort of have this originating detail to this entire story as well, where they're the ones creating the syndrome, and that's not entirely the case. Obviously, this is naturally occurring and has to do with a bit of missing chromosome 15, but it is nice to see some people try to add, you know, scientists try to change things, and it is, of course, something that happens. You know, you've seen it in the Japanese, you know, military, where they actually had a division just for human experimentation. It's happened with any major country that has dealt with this level of study before. You know, everyone's done it, the States, Japan, Germany, any kind of nation that had a program at one point doing this. Now, you know, you'll even have it in places like North Korea. So human experimentation isn't something that's you know, uncommon. It happens all over the world. Unfortunately, very nefarious things can happen from it, and this is one of those nefarious things. But of course, this is a scientist trying to do what they can, and it is interesting seeing how they're reaching for this conclusion. Again, it's very grounded in reality, but while it is eerie and scary, and I guess that is the point of a creepypasta, you know, to give you some form of creepy level, because hey, if I was one of these scientists and I was handing the food out, and I went completely batshit crazy and fell down to the ground dying in convulsions, well, I mean, I don't think I can be scared because, you know, I'd be gone. But regardless, if I was one of the scientists in that situation, it's scary. It definitely gave me a lot of those Russian sleep experiment vibes. With that story, I was visualizing the entire way through. With this, I was visualizing it as well. This would be like a really, really cool movie, to be honest. Now, moving on from that, the thing that does get to me is, while I do find this to be a good creepypasta, nothing really gets worked upon. There's no lore directly for this as itself. You know, it's very short. You start with scientists doing these, you know, studies and these experiments, and it just ends with most of these scientists dead, and this whole thing spreading out of control, which, you know, it's grossly out. You know, it's sort of like witch hunt level vibes going on. But ultimately, I do feel that it is a good creepypasta. It definitely is a very good creepypasta. But I feel like it should have had things that are more attributed to its own sort of internal built lore, so to speak, if that makes any sense. I'd rather have it, you know, fleshed upon, built up, and I feel like if this definitely was given the length and the time to build up that, say, you gave the Russian sleep experiment creepypasta, it would definitely be up there with some of the better creepypastas out there. Not that it isn't already, it's definitely great compared to some of the other things we've read on this channel, but this one is definitely an interesting creepypasta, and I do recommend you guys check it out. Links in the description below, as always. This has been another episode of Creepypasta as part of Haunted Gaming, and as always, I'd like to ask you what you thought of Happy Puppet Syndrome in the comment section below. What would you change to make it better, and what would you rate it? Please let me know. I look forward to that. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This is me, Mudahar, and I am happy.